Are you ready for the top 12?
Probably not.
It's been a fun process.
2 weeks out and $20,000 down.
Lots of people that I feel like I represent, so.
Okay, let's get into it. Top 3 mantras you try to live by.
I'll start with one, and not to double down on the video game comment, but I think I'll give you a Star Wars quote here. Yoda says, "Do or do not, there is no try." And I think that is such a powerful message to live by, because it is so easy to say, oh, one day I want to start a company. One day I want to volunteer. One day I want to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is. Just do it. Get out there and do it. Don't worry about trying. Don't worry about failing. Do it or don't do it, and stop talking about it. And that's why I like that one. A second quote that I find phenomenal is by one of my personal heroes, Bruce Lee. He says, "To hell with circumstances, I create opportunities." And this is something that I think rings really true for the community that our product is intended to serve. Not everybody starts with the same circumstances, and not everybody has access to the same resources, tools, education, financial backgrounds, etc. But being able to put your head down, work, do what you can with what you have, and create an opportunity out of it for yourself or for others, I think is such an important message. The third one is by someone who actually I'd be interested to know if his message has reached Australia. He is a hero kind of among the Hispanic community here in California, amongst migrant farm workers. His name's Cesar Chavez. And he said, if you really want to make a friend, go to someone's house and eat with him. The people who give you their food give you their hearts. And as somebody who has been known to enjoy a heavy meal here or there, I have always preached that the best way to get cultural understanding amongst people who may have nothing in common is through food. You give me a good plate from some culture that I've never tried before, I eat it, we talk. That's the best way to get understanding.
So the first one, this is actually my marketing coach, hers, that I have been adopting a lot right now, is done over perfect. I kind of mentioned perfectionism earlier, but it's something that I'm aware of now, that I maybe am falling into a perfectionism groove. And so I know when I've spent enough time on something, I'm starting to get comfortable. Okay, this is done. I don't need to do any more tweaks or tests. Like, it's done, and walk away. So done over perfect is a really good one. Another one that I like is to put your mask on before helping others, because self-preservation is key. It's not to be selfish, but it's just self-preservation, I think, is so important. We have to take care of ourselves in order to bring our whole selves into our work and do good work. I think that we're all kind of like having to digest a lot right now. So don't forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah. What's the third?
The third is a simple one. It's just speak up. Speak up. In my work, I talk about speak up culture. And I think there's a big difference in calling out and calling in. I don't know if you've ever kind of heard that distinction, but I think it's really important, because the difference between calling in is it's always leading with heart and kindness. So, a lot of us are maybe having difficult, fierce conversations right now. Calling people out, I don't find to be as effective in the long run. Whereas calling in is just a way more compassionate, heart-centered way to communicate with people.
Right. So how would that in practice? Let's say someone at work is really phoning it in, taking credit for the work that you're doing. One option is to just put them on blast, right? Just go to the bosses and be like, listen, this guy or this girl, they're just taking all the credit for all the work. They're really not showing up. What's the calling in sort of approach to that, would you say?
Yeah. I'm just kind of like flipping to some notes, because I've been writing a lot about this. And I kind of have like tips that I like to share for how to speak up kind of in the moment. And the first really is just to think about the mindset, and just to remember that just because you're the loudest person in the room, or somebody else is the loudest person in the room, it doesn't mean that they're the only ones with good ideas. So challenging groupthink is just really, really important, and allowing space for to share the air. Basically, that's one of my agreements I always share with my clients is share the air. Some people are more comfortable talking and hearing themselves talk. And I'm an introvert. I'm somebody who'd rather listen and stay quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And so those people kind of have to push themselves to speak up a little bit more. And so when you're kind of like maybe up against a situation, maybe it's like a situation where somebody is just, there's been a microaggression, somebody's kind of insulted somebody, or there's been, somebody's just kind of been targeted for something. There are some things you can definitely do. And I talk a lot about this, and my content is, interrupting that bias or interrupting that with things like humor. If that's in your wheelhouse and it's appropriate and it's, led with kindness, like it's totally a great strategy to like just break up the pattern with some humor and get people laughing, and maybe like just interrupt and make them think about a comment that wasn't great, or because really, it's so important to be represented, like in a project, in a meeting, having your voice heard. So for people that just aren't that comfortable speaking up, it's just a good habit to get into. Another skill is kind of that I recommend is honing in on your critical thinking skills, because that'll just build your confidence naturally. I think when we were in school, critical thinking was just part of the pedagogy and it was part of our curriculum, but I don't know if adults practice it as much as they could now. So I like to, advise people to just take those surveys. When you get like marketing surveys, just take them, just like practice those critical thinking skills and make it a habit. And then my personal favorite is actually like, just take the day. It's actually really awkward and hard and difficult to speak up in the moment, at least for me sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so I think take the day, journal it out, sleep on it. And then if there's something that you wanted to speak up about, go privately and speak with that person or your manager or your client, at another time. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're in a situation where you're managing up. I find that to be really effective too.
People do business with people they trust. That's you've got to have fun doing business. If you go somewhere and see someone, nothing in your hand, nothing in your head, is a phrase we use. So you always take a notebook when you go and see someone. Otherwise, you're not showing that you've got interest in what they're doing. And the last one is the fundamental thing to everything that we do within PayMe Group: unquestionable integrity.
I try to live by nothing matters more to winning than surrounding yourself with A-plus people. Mm-hmm. I found that A-plus talent wins. I also live by a mantra that is call out the elephant in the room, right? And so oftentimes there are elephants that are there that is the big sort of issue that people sort of dance around and just basically never really focus in on. And then I think built to last, right? And so what I try to focus in on is making sure that I am always focusing on creating long-term value and being in it for the long haul.
Oh, gosh. My first one's just follow your nose. Like, you don't need to have this plan of what you want your life to look like, because things are very fluid, especially in 2020. So follow what you love is number one. The second one is, I think I mentioned this earlier. If you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, if you figure out what it is you want and then what is the best thing for everyone else, you will be successful. And then finally, I don't know, a third mantra. It's hard. It's very hard. Follow your gut. Gut feelings are real feelings.
Oh, I'm actually not much of a self-help person, so this is going to be a bit harder. Let's start with the two I've come up with in the environment. Use less, choose greener. That's two mantras for you. Can we count that as two?
Yeah.
What's my next mantra? I don't know. I don't have a mantra. I do make sure I do something that I like every day.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's really mantras, but I wrote down 3 sentences that really resonate with me and that I have to remember all the time, because I tend to forget about these things. Which the first one is to think about the long-term gain. When you're doing small little recurring tasks that are just boring. You think you need to remember why you're doing it. The second one is to review and evaluate what you've done. Especially in our business journey, it's sometimes easy to forget how far we've gone in this last few years. And then the last one is to trust yourself and to know that when something feels right, it's usually right.
Yeah, so this was a hard one, but there was one that I heard recently where it was, if you achieve all your goals, you're not being ambitious enough, so you should always dream big. And that really stood out to me. I was like, damn, that's so true. There's always room for improvement, and I think that you should be more ambitious, and you shouldn't have all your goals met, and there's always something bigger and better to achieve. Another one that I feel very connected to is you are the most valuable investment you'll ever make. So that's, whether that's knowledge that you're acquiring or, upskilling yourself on something, the more that you do to invest in yourself, the better the outcome for yourself later on will be. And then one that I read on the internet, it's, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And I think that resonated quite well with me.
Okay, so the first one, which we already mentioned, ask for forgiveness, not for permission, because...
That's not a license to just do stupid things, though.
No, yeah, just to clarify, don't be an idiot and don't put yourself in danger and everyone else in danger. But sometimes in a work environment, the best thing to do is just go for it. And if your boss or whatever doesn't like it or doesn't agree with it, then you just cross that bridge when it comes to it. I just think especially in my industries, I guess, I kind of feel like there's a lot of tiptoeing sometimes, and you do have to be careful about what you put out there because you are broadcasting to children. So you need to make sure everything's above board and everything's good. But there are just times where I'm like, man, this is too uptight. This is ridiculous. This is, we're sucking the fun out of this. Let's just do this idea. And if they have a problem with it, fix it in post. And that's not going to apply to every other career path. But yeah, I definitely think sometimes you just need to take a risk. And if you think that if you calculate that you can recover from the risk, if it doesn't go well, then great, go for it. Don't do anything ridiculous, but yeah, put yourself out there. If you've got this crazy idea, just do for it. And if it doesn't work out, at least you tried.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's one of them. Let me look at my little notes because I have to write this down. Yeah, say yes to things. I was a massive yes man growing up, as we have established. So that movie with Jim Carrey, actually, I really related to that movie. That was a good movie. But yeah, saying yes to everything, and just, yeah, whatever it is, just say yes to it. That's it's putting your hand up and putting yourself out there. Because as we said before, people notice that, people like that, they like that go-getter attitude, and they'll use you again for future opportunities. And even if it's a step to the side of what you want to do it anyway.
That's fine.
Life's short.
And it's just more experiences. It doesn't have to be necessarily a step up. It can be multiple steps sideways that opens up an opportunity for a step up anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of us, a lot of people have done the career move where they're like, this was really a step sideways for me. But, hopefully you can look back and be like, it was worth it in the end. But my other mantra sort of thing is, a lot of kids message me on Instagram asking for advice, and they always want to know how to get into TV and how to act and how to do all that kind of entertainment stuff, because every young person wants to be famous now, because it's if you're a YouTuber, you can live off that now, which is crazy. And I just say to people, whatever you really are passionate about, whatever you really enjoy, it could be making model trains or making clothes or writing about the news in your local community. It doesn't matter what you're really passionate about, or if you have a really amazing hobby and you're so good at it, you can make a career out of it. You just have to work hard enough, and you just have to build some skills around it to advertise yourself in the way that it people are finding appealing and stuff like that.
And palatable.
Yeah, and palatable. So yeah, if you have some hobby or something that you're really passionate about, you can make that your career.
I kind of got one, which is believe nothing, entertain everything. And what that means is, it's kind of believe nothing, right? Don't believe stuff always question everything, because there's always a different view of reality. And it goes down to a fundamental, I suppose, acknowledgement that each of us has a valid experience of reality, and not to believe other people's views necessarily. And to the entertain everything part of it is that if you don't entertain everything, you're accepting limitations from preconceived ideas, whether it be your own limitations or other people's projections of what is achievable. And so entertain everything means always leave your options open to something bigger and better and more exciting, or more passion-filled, or more purposeful, or better outcomes, because everything's possible. Nothing's true.
Yeah. I just thought, well, going back to my faith, I have a couple of verses. My favorite verses from the Bible, Psalm 37:4. It's delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of thine heart. So that's something that I meditate on quite a lot. I've got lots of scriptures that I meditate on, and that's, like I said, is what really helps me to get through. They say, when you're reading the Bible, you don't actually read the Bible, the Bible reads you. So there's something, or a passage, or a scripture, or an example, or something, a strategy for everything in life in the Bible. So that's what I use to get me through.
The one that comes to mind is probably no sacrifice, no victory.
That's very like Viking Raiders of you.
I do listen to a lot of Viking metal, so
I don't have like strong like specific phrases, but certainly in terms of how I approach support, that's really to go just above and beyond. That's probably the run of words that I kind of have in mind there as well. And then in terms of how I develop the product is to go generally really deep on something and try to make this one thing as perfect as possible, and so to really I just think of it as going deep on one particular issue, I suppose, and really solving that in the best possible way. And so those two kind of tie together for me, going above and beyond, and because often the development happens in response to customer need as well.
Need.
Yeah, okay. So probably, challenge your assumptions. I definitely do that myself. Like I have assumptions and I'm just like, why am I actually thinking this? Change the world one conversation at a time. That's kind of my little tagline. I believe every conversation you have can change someone's day. You can have a positive conversation, even if it's at the coffee shop or something like that. And finally, one that I learned from Code Like a Girl in managing the partnership with them for DFAT is you can't be what you can't see. So be that person that is going to inspire someone.